If I could give an award to the ancient die engraver who came up with the smartest idea for a coin design, I would give it to whoever came up with this wonderful thing here. This is a gold stater, struck around the year 260 BC for a Greek king called Lysimachus. He was one of Alexander the Great's bodyguards, and after Alexander's sudden death at 323, Lysimachus managed to snag the region of Thrace as his personal dominion. His reign was very unstable politically. Imagine the size of the power vacuum left by Alexander. Money and soldiers definitely helped if you wanted to have a crack at becoming a king, but legitimacy was also a huge issue. Alexander had a lot of close followers. Many people had strong political claims to a slice of his inheritance, and giving out lots of these golden coins was not only a way of buying yourself some support, but also of telling people your story, why you should be king rather than anyone else. These were the first coins to bear a portrait of Alexander. Some modern numismatists claim the earlier silver coins that circulated in his empire, bearing the portrait of Heracles. These coins had in fact the face of Alexander, not of the demigod, but this is still up to debate. I personally don't think that's the case. These gold staters, however, certainly have the image of Alexander, and the visual elements of this portrait were so intelligently chosen that it wasn't even necessary to spell out the name, that it was Alexander who was being shown in this coin. Lesson number 1 in coin propaganda. Add symbols that can be immediately recognizable by anyone, rich and poor, illiterate or intellectual. In this case, the royal headband. Anyone of the time knew wearing this meant you were a king. So we know this coin features, well, a king wearing a royal diadem. But which king? As I mentioned previously, this was a coin struck at a time when lots of people claimed to be king. We then get to the next universal symbol here, the horns coming out of Alexander's head. When he was campaigning on Egypt, Alexander visited an oracle at the oasis of Siwa. There, the oracle claimed he was the incarnation of Ammon Zeus, the king of the gods, of the Greeks and of the Egyptians. Of course, Alexander commended his new claims to divinity to be proclaimed and propagandized all over his empire. Ammon was depicted as a goat, so to connect the image of Alexander to that of Ammon, the artists who came up with this design added goat's horns to the portrait, gently coming out of Alexander's flocks of hair. Now it was without a doubt Alexander who was being shown here. Not only a king with the royal diadem, but a king connected to Ammon. It just had to be Alexander. No other king dared to make such claims to godhood. Only Alexander could do it. But back to Lysimachus for a moment. Why did he approve this design? Well, for someone of the time, it would have been obvious. I mean, everyone worshipped Alexander. He was the king of all Greeks. To connect one's image to that of Alexander was to claim you were endorsed by a divine being, a man turned god. Some other successors of Alexander dared to take the next step and show their own portraits on coins, people like Seleucus I and Ptolemy of Egypt, which would establish their own numismatic traditions, but Lysimachus decided to play safe, relying solely on Alexander's image for his coins. The choice of design for the reverse is equally smart. Here we have Athena, the goddess of the very concept of civilization, of wisdom, rationality, of those fighting defensive wars, defending their homeland. She was seen as the guardian of the Greek way of life. The Greeks considered themselves the apex of the civilized way of living, in a world of barbaroi, the barbarians that surrounded them from all sides. So here we have Athena, sitting on her throne, vigilant, with her shield and her spear by her side, ready to act in case the Greek world was attacked. She holds on her outstretched hand a small Nike, the tiny goddess of victory. This coin was struck in the early Hellenistic period, so a time when the Greeks were at its strongest, militarily and economically. So it's perfectly fitting to see this kind of scene. A goddess that protects its people during its golden age. Although if one examines Hellenistic politics of the time, this so-called golden age was quite questionable. There was a lot of infighting and intrigue amongst the Greeks. Athena might have protected the Greeks at that time against foreign enemies, but she definitely turned a blind eye when one Greek backstabbed the other. The legends on the reverse finally make a reference to Lysimachus. It reads Basileus Lysimachou, of King Lysimachus, in tiny little letters, almost as if the actual name of the king, the issuer of this coin, was a minor design element on the coin. They really thought about every small detail here. Notice how little wear this coin has. I mean, this coin probably did not circulate a whole lot. It was meant to be a storage of value after all, instead of something you would casually spend. This was worth 25 drachma. It was a lot of money. One of such coins could pay for half a month of a hoplite service, and hoplites were very well paid. They were the heavy frontline infantry of the Greek world. Next, check out this other coin. It looks familiar, doesn't it? This is an imitative type of the Lysimachus stater, struck nearly 200 years after the original. Here we have a coin made around the year 88 BC by Mithridates VI. Mithridates was the last Greek king to pose any significant resistance to the growing power of the Roman Republic as they conquered the Greek world, and he was pretty good with his personal propaganda as well. He ruled over a multi-ethnic kingdom and issued different types of coins that appealed to the different kinds of peoples he ruled over. And for his Greek subjects, he issued coins inspired in old popular Greek coin types, including the Lysimachus types. As we can see here on the obverse, we have a somewhat crude but clearly identifiable horn bust of Alexander. And on the reverse, we have, once again, the seated image of Athena. Although the art in this type doesn't look as refined, and it has this series of little control marks all over the design, which makes the overall visuals of the coin and the reverse a little bit cluttered. As for the legends, check this out, this is very curious. It doesn't make any reference to Mithridates, but to Lysimachus instead. A king that was dead for nearly 200 years when this coin was made. It's the same as in the previous coin. It reads Lysimachou Basileus. This is called an immobilized type. That's the name given by numismatists when a certain type of coin just keeps being struck without, let's say, evolving, being made in the name of kings long dead. This happened quite a lot of times in history, and it's the clearest indication of a highly successful coin. People didn't dare changing the name of the coin, even if the visuals were outdated. You know, as they say, like, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. And if there was a type that was successful, it was the Lysimachus stater. It kept being replicated throughout the centuries. Check out this bronze coin, struck under Roman Emperor Gordian III, between 238 and 244 AD. Remember, we were talking about the 200s BC. This type was issued for the province of Macedon under Roman rule. By that time, the time this coin was made, all of the Greek world was firmly under Roman rule for centuries. But as we know, the Romans might have conquered Greece militarily, but truly it was the Greeks who imposed their culture upon the Romans. the Greek-speaking area of the Roman Empire, the eastern provinces, continued to be culturally Greek. One could argue there was a certain level of Romanization that happened there as well. However, its Greekness carried on, and we can see it in this coin design. The horn and diadem bust of Alexander on the obverse copies the original design from Lysimachus, even if by that time there hadn't been a Macedonian king for nearly 3.5 centuries. And on the reverse, we have once again Alexander, this time galloping on his horse called Bucephalus. This type even made a resurgence in modern times. Before Greece adopted the euro in 2001, its currency was also called the drachma, and its coins featured the portrait of some of Greece's most famous historical figures. The obverse of the 100 drachma coin featured, guess who? The horned Alexander type once again. I'm not a huge fan of modern coins, especially anything from the 20th century and anything current. I personally think the age of fiduciary money we live in transformed coins into something secondary, unfortunately. And coins nowadays their designs are very unimaginative, and the metal used on the planchets is of horrible quality. This one might be an exception though. I might have to add one of these coins to my collection. So if I had to make a list of history's 10 greatest coin designs, this coin would definitely make it to the list. There's something timeless about this deified image of Alexander, one of the most important figures in world history, and that seated image of Athena, the incarnation of civilization, the foundation of the modern world we live in. Yeah, as you can see, I really think it's a wonderful coin type that I really like. How about you? Do you like this coin type as well? Let us know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Happy coin collecting, and I'll see you soon.